I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV. Our guest today is Sarah Alger, Madam Moderator of Town Meeting. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
We've just finished
Great to
Town
be here.
Meeting, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes,
Are we
have.
glad?
Yes, very.
What stuck out to you about this town meeting that may have been different from ones in the past?
Well, we had a great attendance, which was nice, and a lot of younger people, and I think that stuck out the most.
You noted that, which was
Yeah.
I think, very good.
Well, it was good. It was good to see some of the younger people coming. It would be really great to see them start running for some offices and kind of starting to take over the town a little bit.
It would be.
Yeah. I mean, we have Tobias Glidden, but I'd like to see more.
Yeah. And we've had a couple who haven't worked out so well either.
Well, that's true. But
Yeah,
they weren't
so-
necessarily young either.
Well, I can think of one, but I won't mention any names. It was a long in terms of the number of important items
Right.
that had to be vetted and in some cases discussed. Were you as surprised as everybody else that the school and the hospital articles, the principal hospital article, were not called for discussion?
I wasn't as to the school. I had kind of thought that might happen because people have another shot at it at the ballot. I was more surprised about the hospital.
Do you think the ballot's going to be close on the school?
I don't really have a sense, but I know that people are aware of the fact that there's a ballot and know that they get that opportunity to vote, and maybe will do their voting there as opposed to town meeting.
Interesting. Do you think that happens? Well, it doesn't. They don't have that opportunity very often unless there's an override.
Right.
So, and there's some people who are viscerally opposed to overrides.
Right, but there have been occasions when things have passed at town meeting and then been really overwhelmingly defeated in a ballot. The town building expansion a number of years ago leaps to mind.
Now, you've been moderator since what, 1997?
Yes, yeah,
That's a long time.
it is a long
At the
time.
glorious salary of $150 a year.
I think it went up to 175.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think so.
I didn't mean to shortchange you.
Yeah, no.
What about, other than perhaps doing your civic duty, what is it about that role that appeals to you?
Oh, well, I don't know. It's fun to be part of something that's a pure democratic process. We don't have very many opportunities to participate directly in government that way. So I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the people and knowing what's going on, hearing both sides of issues or all sides of issues.
Does it frustrate you sometimes that you can't vote?
No, not really. I mean, every once in a while there's something that I have a pretty strong opinion on, but I try to keep those to myself.
What have been some of your more memorable moments that come to mind over the years?
Oh, that's hard. It's always just the meeting that's just happened that I remember the most. I mean, there are snippets of things that I remember, but nothing all that dramatic, I don't know, nothing really. It's funny, you'd think I would have
You're able
a
to
lot
come up
of...
with some pretty good stuff along the way.
Well, I did remember, when we were talking, I had a lot of complaints after the first night this week about the sound system, and I was thinking, I remember somebody wanted to put a mic on me at one point, and so I went back and I found the Eileen McGrath article from 1998, and I did remember the first balloon article, so I went back and looked at that. That was 1997. So specific things like that, when I think of them currently, I can remember back, but nothing really jumps out and where I think, oh, I'll never forget when,
Yeah. Like the time I went to church and the man reading the Bible, his pants fell down.
Right, nothing like that, nothing
that.
like that. And if I did remember something like that, it might be something that would embarrass someone, and so I wouldn't probably tell that kind of a tale.
Yeah, that's right. But it's a fascinating process. Do you believe it's effective in this day and age?
Well,
Or let me put it this way: this is the most effective way to govern ourselves.
Well, I still like it, and the reason why, someone this week said to me, boy, going to town meeting was like stepping back into the 1800s, which I think was not meant to be a compliment. But I took it as a compliment because I think it really is still one of the few ways in which citizens of the town can really connect with their government and what the decisions that are being made. And the alternative would be either to have representative town meeting, and I'm not quite sure how we would vote 100 representatives in. That would be, we'd have to divide the island, I think, into districts. So that would be tough. Or to go to a council situation, which is more like a beefed up board of selectmen.
Right.
And then I think people would get even more attenuated from their government and the decisions that are made. So, and everything's now electronics, and nobody talks to anyone anymore, or nobody writes anything anymore. It's all texting, and this is a way for people really to have to connect and have to talk to each other.
Do you think it would be better and easier for people if we had two, a regular special town meeting halfway through the year? I mean, we've had them periodically, but if we basically plan to schedule it so that some of this stuff got spread out and it wasn't such a long,
That would be possible.
I mean, do you think it's a good idea?
I haven't really thought about it, but it might be. It might work. Would depend how you did it.
I know it's expensive and time consuming
Right.
for a lot of people to put on a town meeting.
Right. The
that's-
setup and all of that is
that's right.
difficult. And it depends on the year. But I think if you had it regularly scheduled, we'd fall into a rhythm, I suppose. The other thing is that there are things where people have to wait an entire year for something to happen.
That's right.
It would speed that up a little bit.
The whole issue of the process of getting financial matters to town meeting, and then the fact that very rarely are they put under the microscope at town meeting. And when they're put under the microscope, in my recollection, it's because somebody wants a little more money for something else. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the budgets that are being presented. And obviously, the finance committee does a good job in reviewing them and so on. But,
Right.
do you think the citizenry should get a little more involved in that scrutiny? Or
Well, I feel like they do get involved when they need to. Yeah, I really do think there have been times, and it's been a while, but I can remember times when Article 8 was called and we had a discussion about portions of the budget. But I think the Finance Committee's been working really well, and the selectmen have certainly been overseeing that well. It seems as if the town manager has a good handle on the financial piece. We have a new finance director, and he seems to be doing a good job. So I think it's okay. I don't know that we want to be completely dissecting the budget at town meeting and
well, isn't that the challenge of town meeting? How deep do you go?
right.
And is it a forum for people who haven't been to hearings and so on to finally take everybody's time to get their information?
Right. There's always a little bit of that, people who wake up the day of the meeting and have finally honed in on an issue. And
I will confess to having been guilty of that.
and I know that's frustrating for people, but generally, and sometimes it ends up raising a point that no one had thought of, and it ends up being a good thing. Otherwise, I think we generally get through the questions pretty quickly. I don't know that we spend a lot of time educating people who could have otherwise been educated at hearings. I wish that the hearings were better attended leading up to town meeting. I know it's a big time commitment for people, but the Finance Committee, I think the Finance Committee public hearing used to get a lot more attendance and attention than it does now.
Well, so even actually with the town's new website, I think it's harder to find out what's going on. I mean, you can go into the agendas and packet section, but the old website had basically a stream on the right-hand side of the front page, which showed
What was happening?
what was coming up.
Yeah.
And that's not there anymore, and I don't know whether it's made a difference or not in terms of the number of people attending.
Oh, I don't know.
But I think, people are so tuned in now to what information is sort of put in front of them,
Right.
as opposed to having to dig for it in this technological age.
I know. Oh, I'm guilty of that. I get alerts, so that's how I know what's going on.
Right. Well, is there anything else about town meeting or the town or the island or anything?
Well, I
you'd
don't
like to-
know. I feel like I could have done a better job this year kind of educating people about the process of the meeting. I felt there were some things that, not that they were disrespectful, but
Well, a couple of them were, I'll say it. You don't have to say it.
a couple of them were, but there were some things that happened that I wish hadn't happened, or I wish things had been different. I mean, I really, and I think I've made this known pretty well, but I've never probably explained why, really dislike the clapping.
There seemed to be more this year.
It did seem to be a lot of it,
Yeah.
and I, in retrospect, wish I'd taken the time to kind of explain why I think it's a disrespectful thing to do. I mean, town meeting is a serious process. We're making laws and enacting legislation, and so when something goes your way, clapping about it, it isn't a sporting event. It seems disrespectful to the people who have come to put in their time and have come away maybe not with the result that they wanted. And particularly when you're talking about people's homes and property and in some
Lives.
cases their lives and their jobs, it feels disrespectful to me to be clapping. I mean, it was great to have a round of applause for Richard Ray, who's retiring. Those sorts of
For
things
Bruce
are,
Miller,
and for
that
Bruce
kind
Miller at the end of the meeting. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But the kind of cheering when people are speaking, and not only does it slow the meeting down, but it really is kind of it sets not a great tone.
That's right. It sets a sort of unpleasant tone. in a
Right.
way.
It makes it feel very hostile. And I think it makes it hard for people who want to get up and speak. I mean, we had a couple of people who got up and who were clearly very nervous about speaking. And, I hate to think of people being intimidated or not feeling comfortable to say what they came to say because they're afraid they're going to be heckled or,
Yeah. Well,
you
I
know.
mean, that's the fundamental premise of the whole institution, really,
Right.
that everybody can come and say what they need to say.
Right.
Not necessarily what they want to say, but what they need to say.
Right. And then, just respecting the time limits. And I don't know, I'm guilty probably of not being forceful enough this year to stop a couple of people when they went on too long. And I think I could have done a better job with that.
Well, and some of it's town officials
Well, yeah.
who should be the first ones to observe the rules.
Well, exactly. So there's that. Just a few things like that.
Well, it seems to have. I think, in the end, most people came out of it. In my sense, came out of it feeling pretty good.
Right.
A few didn't, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, of the people who were there as voters, not with a specific agenda on the table, I think people came out. They felt it was long, and some of it was arduous, but
Right.
it wasn't.
And there were probably some things you wish you hadn't had to sit through and listen to, but I don't think there were many issues where people felt that a point of view wasn't expressed or something that would have swayed the entire meeting wasn't said. There were definitely people who didn't get to speak who would have liked to have, and I always feel badly about that. But I don't know that anyone didn't speak who would have changed the course of the meeting or
Or a particular article.
or a particular article. In some cases, I think people's minds were made up.
Probably by the
From the-
first, either to start with or from the first couple of speakers.
Right, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while, someone gets up and is a very effective speaker, and you can feel the tide turn. It doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while it does. And I always think the people who are most effective are the people who are the shortest. The shorter they are, the more effective they
I
are.
mean, in terms of time, not
In-
stature.
That's right, in terms of time. That's right. Yeah. And then I guess the sound system, I think we need to work on that. I think it's always been a problem.
It does, it is. And I think people need to be encouraged to do something about it before
Right.
the next time.
And I think there are people in the community who are willing to participate and help and step up and do that, and it would be great to
Well,
see
I mean,
that happen.
the high school needs a new sound system anyway.
Right.
So it's not just for town meeting.
No.
It's much more than that. But town meeting is certainly a big part of it.
Right.
Well, Sarah, thank you for
You're
coming
welcome.
and
I'm
sharing your.
sorry I don't have anything really colorful or hot to say,
Well,
but
that's all right. I think it's important to just get your reflections and views sort of hot off the press while you're.
yeah. Well, I'm still depressed and sad and tired and
Tired, I'm sure.
yeah.
Depressed.
Well,
Depressed and sad. I'm
Not
so
really
sure.
depressed and sad, but it's very hard to do the meeting, and then, of course, the thing that I hear the most are where things went wrong, and
Well,
so
yeah.
I always, the first couple of days afterwards, I'm thinking, oh, I should have done that, or I wish that hadn't happened, or wish I'd done that differently, and
Well, it does happen, and you're
What-
as human as the rest of us.
I'll have some better perspective once I've gotten a good night's sleep and something decent to eat. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, thank you very much, Sarah.
you're welcome.
Alger,
Good to see you.
Town meeting moderator.
Yeah.